50 years, 5 decades. And for those of you that don't believe Harinam works, he invented Harinam party. And for those of you that don't believe a book works, he got a book, Sri Upanishad, and here he is 5 decades later teaching all of us. We're very grateful to have him here in Toronto. This is twice this year. I'm begging at his lotus feet to come once a quarter. He doesn't, he's refusing us, but if we go out there and say loud, Hari Bol, we might see him more than twice a year. Can we get a Hari Bol? Come on. Hari Bol! I don't have too much of your time, but if you ever go to Gainesville, if you ever go to Florida, anywhere in Florida, Tampa, Orlando, drive to Gainesville, drive to Alachua, there's a beautiful temple in Alachua. But what Prabhu is doing in Gainesville, it's called Krishna House, and they go teach, hundreds and hundreds of students about the practice of bhakti. Every single day, they feed hundreds of kids, or thousands, about 1,000 a day. So 1,000 kids a day on University of Florida campus for Krishna lunch. Kalakantha doesn't remember this, but one year I went to see him at Krishna lunch. And while he was serving, he served like 100, 200 lemonades, and we had a full conversation, and he was nonstop in his service. So he's exemplary in his service, and Krishna House is something to be seen, and we're trying to replicate that. We'll talk about it later on. We're trying to replicate that throughout North America, including in Toronto. But we're very fortunate to have Kalakantha Prabhu, and a warm welcome once again. Hari Bol!
I'll come as often as my wife allows me to come. If we can say a Hari Bol for her. Jaya Radha Madhava Sindhya Bihari Gopi Janabala Bhaju Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Wonderful to be here with you tonight. Thank you for coming. Once there was a preacher, I don't know if it was in this church or some another church, but he was giving an impassioned sermon. And standing in front of the congregation, he said, "Everyone who wants to go to heaven, stand up." Everyone stood up. And he said, "And everyone who wants to avoid going to hell, sit down." And everyone sat down, except one man in the back. "Brother Johnson, you want to go to hell?" I said, "Well, not really, Pastor. I just thought you shouldn't have to go by yourself." We're going to talk about spiritual subjects tonight. One of the most basic spiritual subjects, about how to rise above misidentification with our material body. This is a beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 18. Gabriel, my friend, kindly put it up on the board. If you will just chant it once to hear the Sanskrit. Everyone, please chant responsibly. Antavanta ime deha Nitya shoka sharirinaha Ashino prameyasya Tasmad yudhyasva bharata. And the translation. How about we all read this together aloud? The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharata. Here is the commentary, the explanation of this verse by our beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhu'S, who graced us here in Toronto in 1975-76 and helped establish this wonderful temple for all of us. He writes, "The material body is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately, or it may do so after 100 years. It is a question of time only. There is no chance of maintaining it indefinitely. But the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation, because the living entity, as he is, cannot be killed, nor can the material body be saved for any length of time or permanently protected. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires the material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. In the Vedanta Sutras, the living entity is qualified as light, because he is part and parcel of the supreme light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. As soon as the spirit soul is out of the material body, the body begins to decompose. Therefore, it is the spirit soul which maintains this body. The body itself is unimportant. Arjuna, the student of Bhagavad Gita, was advised to fight and not sacrifice the cause of religion for material bodily considerations. The material body is perishable, but the life within it is not. This is the first teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada gives this example, a very vivid example, that when the body is alive, say the body of a handsome man or a beautiful woman, people are interested in that body. But as soon as the life leaves that body, nobody wants to touch it. It is actually the living force within the body that is attractive. It's the living force within the body with whom we have relationships. Right? The soul is life itself. It is the force that animates the body. What causes our hearts to beat, what causes our food to digest, what causes all the life of the synapses in our brain to fire. There is a source of energy for all of these things. This is the soul. We also know it as consciousness. We can be conscious at any moment of any part of our body. So the consciousness pervades our body like the sun pervades the sky. That part of us lives on, but the body does not. But in a misdirected, hellish civilization, people are only focused on the body, and the idea of what is the soul is relegated, well, that's philosophy, that's your belief, whatever. You can believe whatever you want. But if you don't believe in gravity, does that change its effect on you? I may not believe it, I may want to refuse it, but the reality is there. The problem with identifying with the body is that the body will end. And so all of our hopes and all of our dreams we are putting in the wrong department. We're betting on the wrong horse. So the wonderful effect of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra as we were doing this evening is to lift our consciousness above the bodily conception of life. Now I'm going to talk a bit about this, and it may seem esoteric to you or a little ethereal. I just want to tell you a little story about how this benefits you nonetheless. It benefits us all to hear this knowledge. There was once a saintly person, a scholar and teacher in India, who was giving discourses on spiritual topics, and one elderly lady would come and listen to him every day. So one day, after his talk, she came to him and said, "Sadhuji, I come and hear from you. I love hearing from you, but when I leave, I forget everything I heard. What should I do?" The sadhu said, "Tomorrow, bring me a basket full of Ganga water, Ganges water, and I will explain." And she said, "A basket full of Ganges water? How can I keep water in a..." She said, "Never mind, just bring me a basket full of Ganga water. Do your best." So the next day she came back. She had a basket, it was wet. She said, "Maharaj, I went to the Ganga, I tried to get water in it, but it wouldn't hold it." And he said, "Yes, but now your basket is clean." So we may hear these topics, we may understand them or not understand them, but they are purifying to us. We may appreciate the chanting of Hare Krishna or we may not, but it still affects us and purifies us. So to hear about the soul, Krishna says, excuse me, for some people, is amazing. Some people say the soul is amazing. It's so amazing I'm choked up. Thank you. Some look on the soul is amazing. But some people, even after hearing about the soul, cannot understand it at all. At the University of Florida where I work, one history professor retired after years of teaching. And he lamented the absence of spirituality, of religion from the curriculum. Most colleges were initially founded by religious leaders, and the University of Florida there is no exception. There's a big tower in the middle of the campus. It was obviously part of a church, but now it's just an auditorium. Some years ago they decided to no church should have a representation on campus. It should be secular. Religion is something you do on your own time off campus. So this tenured professor was lamenting that ever since this happened, the character of the students had gone down and down. And the amount of anxiety had increased, the amount of suicides had increased, the amount of stress had increased. Why was all of this? It's because without some spiritual training, we will naturally identify with the body. Our whole social experience is guiding us in this way. For example, from our childhood, we are taught that we are identified with a certain ethnicity. We're from a Pakistani family, Indian family, European family, African family, whatever. That is our identity. And then we are also taught that we are a particular gender. We are a man or a woman or gender neutral. But the point is that these are all identities that pertain to the body. We're taught that we are young or old, so enjoy while you're young, because you can't do it when you're old. We're taught that we're tall or short or handsome or ugly or beautiful, or all these things are simply identifying the material body. But it is the consciousness that is important. Just like a driver and a car. So together, the driver and car can move here and there. But if the car stops and the driver gets out, what is the car going to do? And yet, especially when we get a new car, we identify very much with our car, right? Once there was a fender bender and a driver hit another driver's car from behind. So the driver who was hit got out and said, "You hit me!" And the other driver said, "Sir, my car hit your car." So when we identify so deeply with our body, with our ethnicity, our religion, our family, obviously there is chaos in society because there's only so much to go around, so much material enjoyment to be had. And we want it for us and for our family and for our country. Only so much oil, only so much water, only so much wealth. As much as we can gather, this is the consequence of identifying with the body. I saw a bumper sticker not long ago. It said, "Whoever dies with the most toys wins." What a shame. Alexander the Great was known as the greatest conqueror of the ancient world. He actually amassed the greatest empire in modern history, recorded history. Somehow in the course of his conquering, he contracted syphilis, and there was nothing they could do to cure him. So as he was there on his deathbed, he called his confidant, his generals, his ministers, and said, "When I die, I want that my body should be placed on a palanquin. I should be lying on my back, my palms to the sky, empty. And I want that this palanquin would be carried by 6 doctors. Behind the procession, I would like gold coins to be scattered to the people watching to pick up." The minister said, "Maharaj, whatever you desire, we'll do that, but please, can you tell us why?" He said, "I want everyone to see that I amassed the greatest kingdom in the history of the world, and yet I'm leaving empty-handed. And I want everyone to see that I had the best doctors available in the world, and none of them could do anything to save me. And I want everyone to see that all the wealth I accumulated was going to be enjoyed by others." So, what is the point, therefore, in thinking so much and attaching so much importance to our material body and the material enjoyment that we get from it? This is ignorance. And the result of that ignorance is bad character. Bad character in terms of our greediness, our jealousy, our dissatisfaction. Conversely, when we approach life as conscious living beings, occupying temporary material bodies, not only do the good qualities such as compassion, love, tolerance develop, but our enjoyment of life increases exponentially. How can we enjoy something which is doomed? The best we can do is sort of the rabbit strategy. You know the rabbit strategy? If a fox is chasing a rabbit and gets caught in a blind alley with no escape, the rabbit's ultimate defense, I just don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at it. My mother used to say, we were from a Christian family, she said, your Hare Krishna philosophy is so fatalistic. Talking die, grow old, disease. We're just looking at the reality. But the amazing side benefit of looking at the reality is a tremendous relief of pressure and anxiety. Just like if you're in college and you have a test on Monday morning and it's Friday evening. So Friday, you've been working hard all week. Now I want to have some fun. So you can have some fun, but in the back of your mind, the whole time you know this test is coming up on Monday. So the astute, intelligent student will do what? Let me study first and prepare for the test, and then I can actually enjoy. Then I can actually have some relief, right? So this is Krishna consciousness. We are preparing for the inevitable reality of the demise of our material body. That may seem fatalistic, but isn't it realistic, in fact? People want to avoid this topic because they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to cure it, how to resolve the problem. The great gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us, given the world, comes from these wonderful Vedic scriptures. How to resolve the problem of death. The problem of death is resolved just by turning our attention to the source of our consciousness. Our consciousness comes from a supreme consciousness. We may not be able to see our own consciousness. It's invisible. It's not something material, so we can't see it with our material eyes. But just as the sun is shining, even on a cloudy day, although it's invisible to us, when we're stuck on the bodily concept of life, our consciousness is still there. That consciousness comes from a supreme consciousness. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vedadhati kamanam. The Vedic scriptures teach that of all the eternal conscious beings, there is one chief eternal conscious being. The Bhagavad Gita explains why we exist. Why our bodies exist. Why do we exist? Why do parents have children? Children are a pain in the neck. I'm just stating a fact, sorry. I thought all the kids were going to be at Sunday school and I could say this. They are the most lovable pain in the neck in the world. Right? Okay. I know when I had my first child, my wife and I had our daughter here in Canada, actually, many years ago. And I found myself feeling love for this little bag of stool more than I had ever felt for anyone else in my life. So parents naturally love their children, and they have children to grow and experience and within themselves that love. So our Creator similarly expands himself as the many, as all of us, eternal living beings. He is eternal, we are eternal. He is conscious, we are conscious. He creates us for his enjoyment. And when we bring him enjoyment, we feel happy. But he also gives us the freedom to choose whether or not to bring him happiness. Why? Because if he forced us, how could we do it voluntarily? How could we give our love to him? You see? If you hold a gun at me and say, do you love me? I'll say, yes, I love you. But he is not so foolish as to think that is real love. So he gives us a choice to identify with the physical or the spiritual, the material body or the consciousness within it. That's our free will, that's our choice. When we choose to identify and act upon our existence as a conscious living being, that brings him great joy. That brings him great happiness. And when he is happy, we're happy. That's just how it works. That is something I could describe to you all day, but it has to be experienced in order to be understood. So our proposal, Srila Prabhupada's proposal for us all, practice this chanting of the name of our Creator. We say Hare Krishna. Krishna is one of his names. It means the all-attractive person. But he has countless names. It's not a sectarian process. If you want to call him Allah, that's fine. Jehovah, Buddha, whatever name you choose to ascribe to the Supreme. That name, when repeated, brings him pleasure. It's said that the sweetest sound in any language is the sound of a person's own name. Isn't that true? We love to hear our name. So he also enjoys that, and he's not ashamed to to admit it. God takes pleasure from hearing the sound of his name. So simply by repeating it, we bring him pleasure. And then when we bring him pleasure, we feel pleasure in return. That's something that must be experienced. Fortunately, it doesn't cost anything. It just takes a little time to experiment and try it out. Now people say, and one of the reasons education is secular, is because people say this talk about the soul and consciousness is religion, and it doesn't belong in a scientific world. You can believe it if you want, but unless we can measure it and feel it and see it, it doesn't count as science. We beg to differ. What is the scientific process? Anyone know? 3 steps? Hypothesis. Experiment. And conclusion. Hypothesis, experiment, conclusion. This is the scientific method for anything. So the hypothesis is that if you chant God's names, you'll be happy. The experiment is up to you. And the conclusion can be drawn if you're open-minded enough to make the experiment. So people from India and of Indian heritage know this in their DNA. The worship that we just were doing a little earlier, this is indigenous to people. If you go to India, you'll see, Krishna drugstore, Hari motorcycle repair, isn't it? The name of God is everywhere because people know this is purifying, this is uplifting. So the experiment is up to you to give it a try. When Srila Prabhupada came to America, it was a very dramatic journey. He was 70 years old. He had 2 heart attacks on the boat coming across. He had $8 in his pocket. And he had never been out of India before. All he had were some of his books, these amazing books like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita that he had translated to English. So when he arrived in New York and saw some of the buildings and the people, and he wrote in his journal, Krishna, I don't know why you have brought me to this terrible place. How will these people ever be convinced about what I have to offer them? Anyway, he said, I'm a puppet in your hands and you make me dance as you like. So this is the mood of a highly elevated servant of God, that even if the position is difficult or even impossible, he is not deterred because that relationship of loving exchange with the Supreme Father is so deeply established that he feels safe everywhere. Just like a little child crossing a busy street here in Toronto. The child on its own would be in great danger, but because the Father is there holding the child's hand, the child feels safe. I don't know how to do this, but my Father knows, and I'm in his care. So when we progress in our awareness of the spiritual side of our existence, when we progress in our freedom from the bodily identity, we come to a position of trusting the Supreme, all-powerful Father. In the Bhagavad Gita, his instruction book on how to develop the spiritual side of our life, Lord Krishna, the teacher, says in the Sanskrit, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram Suridam sarva bhutanam yatmamam shantim prichyati. Anyone know the meaning of the Sanskrit word shanti? Peace. Shanti, shanti, shanti. So, one who knows me, Krishna says, as the owner of everything, as the beneficiary of all work and all efforts that we may extend in life, and as the best friend, that person becomes peaceful. So let's just break that down for a moment. The Supreme Proprietor, the Supreme Beneficiary, and the Supreme Friend. Supreme Proprietor means, like Alexander the Great, he realized he came in the world with nothing, he left with nothing. So who owns everything? We did not create any of it. It's all created by the Supreme. So while we're here in this world, we can use it, but it's ultimately his property. So suppose you found a wallet on the street. In a materialistic mind, you might say, oh good, my lucky day. I get the wallet, I get credit cards, I get the money. Good for me. Another person who's perhaps trying to be more spiritual might say, I'm not going to touch it, it's not mine. But the third person might say, here's this property, who does it belong to? You'll look up the number, get them on Facebook, try to find the proprietor of this property. So similarly, a spiritualist will ask, who is the owner of everything? It is the Supreme. Therefore, let me return it to its rightful owner. The Supreme Beneficiary, that is the person for whom all work is meant, same thing. We have the capacity to do something. Each and every one of us has a unique, innate skill. It's like Homer tells Bart, son, you're unique, just like everybody else. We all have a unique property and set of skills to use in the service of the Supreme. The word yoga means to learn to use our talents, our abilities in the service of their Creator. This is yoga, which means connecting with the Supreme. So doing whatever we do, practically anything we do can do art or music, we can do business, we can do our job, whatever we are doing, with the science of yoga firmly understood, we can do for the Supreme, and therefore connect with the Supreme through that work. Just like the whole Bhagavad Gita, for those who have read it, you understand, it's a book about a warrior who is reluctant to fight. And his teacher, in this course of a half-hour conversation, convinces him to fight, but for a higher purpose. Not for the sake of winning the spoils of war, but for the sake of serving the Supreme. So, the Supreme Beneficiary, this is God, this is Krishna. And finally, the Supreme Friend. Now, I was raised in a Judeo-Christian understanding of God, which perhaps some of you know, that God is this mean dude who's a supreme judge, and you better not get him upset. If you do, you're going to be in big trouble. All you have to do is be a God-fearing person, and then you can do whatever you want. Just be a God-fearing person. You ever heard this phrase, a God-fearing person? So I learned to fear God and love the things of the world. After reading Bhagavad Gita, I learned to love God and be a little skeptical about the things of this world. The things of this world, why? Because the things of this world can make me again identify with this material body and make me think I'm the enjoyer. So Krishna says if we understand him in these three ways, the Supreme Proprietor, the Supreme Enjoyer, and the Supreme Friend, then Yadvamam Shanti Richati. That person becomes peaceful. Our proposal is if you chant Hare Krishna, you practice Bhakti Yoga as taught, and you read Bhagavad Gita, you will become peaceful in a way that you've never experienced before in your life. You'll be dealing with the final exam that is inevitable for us all. You'll be directing your energy into an entirely different direction and opening up a whole new sphere of experience, of joy, of steadiness, of compassion for others, that for me, I never knew existed before Srila Prabhupada introduced me to this world. So that's our sincere invitation for everyone tonight. Again, so many of you from India or of Indian heritage, you know these things naturally. But those of us who are not so blessed to be brought up in this land or tradition of Dharma, for us it's a little bit more of a challenge. Now there's so many Hindu temples in Toronto, right? So how many of them are reaching an audience beyond the Hindu community? Any? No. This is because the actual teaching of our heritage, our Bhagavad Gita heritage, is that it is not limited to one ethnic group or nationality or religion. It is for everybody. And as the Krishna consciousness movement grows and grows, more and more people will come to this understanding that it is really meant for everyone. Because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. As George Harrison, the Beatle, wrote in his introduction to Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book, everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. Some may not know it, but they still are. So becoming aware of that does not mean we have to renounce this world. It doesn't mean we have to give up our families or friends or loved ones. It means we just add something wonderful to our lives. And then when that wonderful addition begins to kick in, your friends and family will say, what is going on with you? You used to look so depressed, now you look happy. You used to spend hours behind a computer, now you want to see people. You used to self-medicate in various creative ways, and now you're just chanting all the time. And you're actually becoming a nicer person. What's going on? This is because when we allow ourselves to resume our eternal relationship with our Creator, all of the beautiful qualities that are inherent in us begin to come out. In the Sanskrit, this is called anartha nivritti, that unwanted things, addictions, bad habits, nasty tendencies start evaporating. So the experiment of chanting will bring about this experience for you. It's guaranteed. It will help you become a better person and feel like a better person. It will help you treat people in a better way and feel like you're better connected with others. All of these things can only be experienced by chanting. So we encourage you, please make this chanting part of your life. If you are shy doing it at home, just go in your closet. You can chant in your closet. You don't have to chant on the street. But believe it or not, that's a lot of fun. But that's something you can do another time. Just begin chanting. You can count on your fingers, or you can not count at all. If you want to get a little more proficient, you can get some beads. Chanting on beads is really helpful because it helps you focus your attention. And if you want to get a little more advanced, you can hang out with other people who chant. All of these things are free, or maybe a couple of bucks for the beads. I don't know what you charge. But the mantra is free. The experience is free. The prasadam, the sacred food that's been offered to Krishna, is free. And if you experiment and you don't like it, it comes with a karma back guarantee. If you don't like what it does to you, you can go right back to what you were doing before. No problem. Sometimes people say, oh, if you chant, you'll get brainwashed. Well, maybe the brain needs some washing. What do you think? If we're identified with something we're not, maybe some scrubbing is in order. So chanting is a process of washing, and then if you want to industrial strength wash, then come to the chanting with other people, like we're doing this evening. And we're going to do again after dinner at 8 o'clock. All right, so please take this wonderful process, this gift from Srila Prabhupada for the world. It has been my joy to experience and my joy to share it with you tonight. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, I am told we have a couple of minutes if anyone has any questions or reflections on these topics. Anything at all you might like to know? How many people feel like they are not their body? Raise your hand. Okay. I'm not going to make you all stand up and sit down.
We have a microphone. If you have a question, the microphone will come to you.
Yes.
Can you comment on the importance of the
Importance of what?
spirituality?
Right. The importance of the material body for spirituality. Excellent question. So, a physician, a skilled surgeon, can take a knife and save a person's life. A thief can take the same knife and use it to kill somebody. Same knife, different consciousness. So similarly, this body can be used in beneficial ways or malefic ways, depending on our consciousness. If it's used in the service of its creation, then the body becomes a valuable tool and promotes our well-being. But if it's used as if it was enjoying it, was all we were meant to do, it will be the cause of our degradation. I'll give you an example, being from Florida. In Miami Beach, in the southern tip of Florida, the weather is very nice all year. I think there's many flights from Canada down to South Florida for that reason in January. So, but if you go there to Miami Beach, you will see often wealthy older people trying to relive their youth. They're wearing bathing suits that really should not be illegal to wear. And one of my friends commented, it's like the world's largest changing bodies exhibition. So people who have not learned to use their body for its true purpose, but rather trying to enjoy its last few drops of pleasure, is pathetic. So the body is very important if it's used for the proper purpose. But if it's misused, it can be a tremendous detriment. Not only in this life, but then because our whole goal as living beings is to enjoy the flesh, then we have to get another fleshy body to enjoy it with, you see? Krishna is neutral. He gives us whatever we want. If we want to enjoy the physical, he gives us a physical body. We reincarnate. But if we are tired of this reincarnation, he lets us use our body in his service also. Again, our free will, our choice. Okay. Anything else?
One last question. Anyone?
All right. Oh, yes? One question. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So, I think like if you're kind of one last associate yourself to the same thought and you kind of feel like you don't associate with this material body, but sometimes if you're too much into this, right, you start expecting maybe people around you that they should also expect have the same feeling. How to kind of save ourselves from those expectations?
Right. We need, if we're on the spiritual path, we need to be selective in our association. We need to find out other people who share our spiritual values and hang out with them as much as possible. But if we have work, we have family, or we have friends, or we have other relationships, it doesn't help anybody for us to try to impose, to try to convince. You see? If somebody is genuinely awake in their spiritual life, they don't need someone else to validate their faith because the experience is so sweet and intense. So sometimes we can best teach others about spirituality by not teaching them, but rather by showing our example. If we're happy in our lives because of our spiritual awakening, we'll naturally be able to give more of ourselves to other people. Right? So, yes, we can disclose our mind and discuss our spiritual realizations with other people on the path. That's all. And so we want, as much as possible, get that sangha, that sadhu sangha, that association. All right? Okay, so if there's no more questions, I'll just make one short, brief announcement. I think I have 1 minute left. Yeah. We're going to be talking about the Bhakti Academy in a moment. But I just wanted to share with you that the whole concept of the Bhakti Academy is above the bodily platform of life. It's a place where people who want to be immersed in association with other spiritually minded people can live their lives, go to work, go to school, but live in the association of spiritually minded people. It's a very special program. It's open for everybody. It's especially good for young people who are not heavily attached with many responsibilities. So I'd like to say a few more words.
Yeah, we'd love to thank you so much. Everyone can be around. So we'll do some announcements about the Bhakti Academy, and then I'll take over to finish up for the night. Thank you so much, everyone. Can be around.
Hare Krishna once again. Can I just request everybody to come? There's a lot of people in the hallway. Please come in tighter a bit so everybody in the hallway can warm up a bit. Enjoy the company of all of you. So everybody can shift in. I'd like to ask Bria Pradanga Prabhu, the Bhakti Academy and Bhakti Academy friends to all stand up and make yourselves known here. And while they do that, I want to go over and narrate what's happened in the last year approximately. A bit of an echo here. Make yourselves known here. And while they do that, I just want to go over and
Reincarnating.
what's happened in the last. Very well. Oh, hopefully that's better. So last year, His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj asked us to do a lot of renovations. And we started doing extensive renovations in the basement. And we were down to half a dozen residents in the temple. Half a dozen elderly residents, some of them around 70 years old, most of them around 70 years old. So in earnest, following those instructions, we started doing a massive renovation of the women's ashram, the men's ashram, conference rooms, classrooms, etc. And we did not know what Krishna's plan was. Honestly, there was no clue. And then in January, in order to serve Srila Prabhupada, many devotees from North America, we gather usually in person, but this time because of COVID, it was over Zoom. And sometimes we gather for meetings, and in those meetings, some of them actually put you to sleep. But I remember during those meetings, there was two. I remember the food truck. Some of you know I'm very involved in Prashad distribution, so there was a food truck presentation. And then Kalakantha Prabhu came glowing on the Zoom screen, talking about Krishna House and Bhakti Academy and how she would implement this. And thanks to Temple Council, and thanks to a lot of, and thanks to His Holiness Bhakti Mark Swami, and the board, and a lot of supporters, the light bulbs went on and we said, we now know why Krishna is preparing all of these rooms and what the plan was. So that was in January, that Zoom, where we saw Kalakantha Prabhu, and shortly after that we begged him, please come to Toronto, make Toronto the next Bhakti Academy. And Prabhu nicely listened to us, and on Ram Navami, which is April, I just checked, I was looking at these words those dates. In April of this year, Kalakantha Prabhu came and he sat here and he spoke to all of you, and that was the start. And he said, you know what, I have a young man called Prabhu'S Prabhu. You know, I know we're not supposed to be going on top of material physical body, but this 6 foot plus blonde, you can't see the blonde hair, but trust me, if you look at the see that it's blonde. And saffron comes in at Nashama Chaturdasi, and Nashama Chaturdasi, around that time, the renovation room pushed to be completed, last minute pushes, and all of a sudden we went from 6 to over 20 devotees. I'm not sure what the number is right now, but we're over 20. The balcony rooms are full, the ashrams are full, we're bursting at the seams. And every single day, from morning Mangal Arati to Bhagavatam class, to Gita class, to Harinam, to a vegetable cut-up, to kitchen service, to maintenance of the temple rooms, to university outreach, to going out and preaching at whole programs, they've gone out there and changed the trajectory of Iskcon Tra New Ramuna down. So, my Dandavats and Temple Council and the board to Kalakantha Prabhu for doing this. Our Dandavats to Prabhu'S Prabhu for inspiring us, and to go out there and bring all these wonderful devotees, and there's a few of them missing I can see, but all these wonderful devotees to go out there and have a Bhakti Academy. Now today's very bittersweet because as Srila Prabhupada instructed, and as his loyal disciples are doing, his loyal followers are doing, we have to go out there and continue to preach. So we can't go out there and get attached. So just like Srila Prabhupada left New York, he went to San Francisco, just like Kalakantha Prabhu was constantly traveling. It's a bittersweet day because in May, 6 months ago, I stood here to introduce you to Prabhu'S Prabhu. And today, 6 months later, we have to go out there and bid him a fond farewell for now, because I'm asking him to come very regularly, but a farewell for now, because he has to go to Philadelphia and repeat the magic. And that's their next stop, and then they're going to keep repeating the magic. Before I hand it over to Prabhu'S Prabhu, he's going to do a special, and then he's going to go over and I will let you do the announcements of that. I just want to, yesterday morning there was a intimate initiation ceremony where our temple coordinator, a lot of you know her as Vatsala Mataji, Vatsala Prabhu, Bhakti Vatsala, she goes by a lot of names. She's our temple coordinator, and yesterday was an intimate ceremony where she got initiated, and usually the highlight of the initiation is going out and announcing the new name, and the new name is given by the spiritual master. So I want you guys to go over and applaud and go crazy because her spiritual master is going to announce her name in front of all of you right now, and then we'll have His Grace Prabhu'S take it over.
Her new name is Vishaka Devi Das.
So I'm standing between you and Prasadam. Please forgive me. I'll keep it very brief. I'm honored that that I've spent so much time getting to know many of you, and it's bittersweet for me as well leaving. And I'm eagerly looking forward to coming back in the future to chant and dance and feast with all of you again. And in my absence, we have such amazing devotees, as you see here. This is a small group of the current students, residents, and then also some of our friends who have joined us for trips and services. And we invite anybody else who's interested to come and join us and get to know this group better, and we're here to serve you. And in my absence, a few kind devotees are stepping up to take on a lot of responsibility. So first one is Bhakti Gabriel. So let me take over as the men's ashram leader. So if you all have any comments, questions, concerns about the ashram, please, especially the men's residents, please direct that to Gabriel. And so please give him your full support. And also, our newly initiated Vishaka Prabhu, she is kindly taking up not only the role of temple coordinator, but also the Bhakti Academy director. Not an easy service, and she's extremely capable, and we're very confident in her success. And so we ask you all to please give her your full support as well. Any concerns you have in general about the Bhakti Academy, please direct those to Vishaka. And so finally, Indrash Prabhu, when I came here 6 months ago, he gave me symbolically the key to the ashram, which is right here. So I wanted to pass this on to Vishaka, and I will pray continually for your success and the success of all of the devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm so sorry, we have a few more announcements. Thank you, Bhakti Academy, for being here. We really appreciate you. Just a few announcements for everyone sitting here. Again, we have an 8 o'clock darshan, right? So the DVs will open again at 8 o'clock. That means we need to have our dinner and dispose of it kindly in the left side. Everyone sees me here, left outside. You'll see my husband there and then myself. We're the trash devotees. That's what we self-described. We're the devotees that take care of the trash, and we're fine with that. Okay, a couple announcements. We don't have any sponsors today for the Sunday feast, but we do appreciate those who have given in the past, and anyone who feels like they'd like to sponsor, please see the front desk. We have all the information there for you to sponsor the Sunday feast. A couple more announcements, Okay, the Sunday school, of course, the kids' school is doing the Gita contest for everyone who knows about it. If you don't, the flyer is on the poster board right there straight out by the doors. And that is for Gita Jayanti, which is coming up on December 3rd for everyone. Put that on your calendar. We will post information shortly, usually on our Facebook page or newsletters, etc., the WhatsApp group. And we have one more. Okay, unfortunately, we'd like to ask for everyone to give prayers. So if I can just have everyone for one moment chant the Hare Krishna mantra. This is for Nand Maharaj Das. He's a devotee in our community in Brampton. His wife's mother just passed away in India. So can we get a Hare Krishna for their family right now? Hare Everyone together? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare. And just, yep, that's, thank you. We're short on time, unfortunately. I want to make sure you can eat and leave. And then just, we'd like to thank all of our servers and everyone who puts together this feast. Every Sunday, if we get a round of applause for them. Thank you so much. And our feast was cooked tonight by Bhadra Krishnadas and Aditi Devidasi. Thank you so much. So now please, you can help get into our 4 lines